Welcome to Projects for All. My name's Mike, and today we got Kobalt's 10-inch, 15-amp table saw. Comes with a nice looking stand. Let's get it out of the box. We're gonna check every square inch of this thing. Another budget saw. I like doing these budget saws. Honestly, if we could find a worthy competitor to the Red Skill, I'll be happy. This one is in the same price range. It's got a stand that rolls. Could be a winner. I don't know. I already like what I see. I'm not gonna lie to you. The stuff is heavy. These are not flimsy cheap. There's quite a bit of metal there. I like what I see. Got some hardware. These are all pre-assembled. Very nice. Nice heavy tubing. It's a good start. Let's get all this out of here so we can see what we're doing. Metal throat plate. It actually looks very nice for 350 bucks. I am not seeing anything that disappoints me yet. The assembly on this looks a little more complicated than I was hoping for. You got about 2 millimeters or so on the tubing here, which is freaking impressive. This is heavy duty stuff. This feels like it's going to take a beating. It's got some heft to it. I'm impressed already with the stand. At least the quality of the tubing. We'll see how everything goes together. But here's the instructions we got going on here. What is all that nonsense? Why does this have to be so complicated? Why? It looks like they just took some engineering drawings and added labels to them. So they tell you what hardware to use, which is helpful, but the pictures leave a lot to be desired. So there are a few videos about assembling this saw on here. I'm gonna be as brief as I can be. And I want to check the saw, so let's get moving. I don't think I've had to assemble the latch on one of these yet, so there's part of it. There's a hole here and a hole up here, and this thing gets bolted to that hole there, and the bolt that comes through here is what it slides on when you hit the pedal. Everything here is metric, by the way. This is M6 bolt. This is an M8 bolt. This is 10 mil. This is going to be 13. So we're all metric all the way around on this. I don't know about you guys, but anytime I buy something I put together and everything's metric, I feel like it's made for a different market than the States and just brought to the States. But it could obviously just be a design choice. Works as advertised. 16 mil on these axle nuts. The hell is a sleeving? A little bit of skimpage on the wheels there. The tires are nice and this thing's heavy enough. It's pretty heavy, but not a confidence inspiring wheel on this one, but who knows? Maybe it's awesome. 16 mil on the axle nuts. Kind of an odd choice. See some grind marks under the powder coat on this. There's some of the welds on this one. Not bad. Good coverage. Powder coat looks thick enough. You got this part here with the bracket over there, and we're just gonna drop this puppy on here. It's got holes on one side, and I already took the bolts out of the ends of this. For some reason, I'm compelled to use the included Allen keys today. These were pre-installed, height adjustable. We have to install these right there. Nylon insert nuts pretty much throughout. No lock washers anywhere in this that I can find. It makes me feel like maybe, you know, they put a little thought into this. There you go. Since we're under here, we might as well have a look at the bottom. There's your height adjusting plastic gears. No one's favorite with the plastic gears, but it is what it is. You got your brushes on either side for your motor. So pretty standard stuff under here. Big hoop, closed end on that side. We got holes here at our saw and holes in our frame. We'll get some bolts in those. Next up, we got our handles. They got an Allen bolt already installed. We got to remove. There's a hole on the ends of these right here. So that's just gonna line up with that. This hoop on top, that hole there is going to correspond with that hole there. We're going to use the spacers. These are actually really nice spacers. They're interlocking just on their own. They glide nice. They're going to go between the tubes like that. Not bad. I like this design. This is one of the better designs we've seen. This looks honestly way more finished than we're used to. There's a little movement because I don't have the bolt tight yet, but not bad. I'm impressed. You know, Bosch would have been like, hey, let's just figure out a way to put a valve stem cap from a car in here somehow, and we'll call it a day. Yes, I'm using the Masterforce box as a workbench. So this is the next step right here. The topmost hole underneath this bar goes in the top hole of the one with the wheels. By the way, if you want to see the video for the Masterforce and you haven't hit subscribe, now's a good time to do that. Because I challenge you, find me a video of someone that reviewed this saw. I can't find the video, not a single video. Well, thankfully, we're at the part of the instructions where I literally can't tell what's happening. What is this nonsense? I can tell they're referencing this hole from this little tiny part of the, where the hell is it? That, right there. See it? The one's pointing to a dotted line that goes to that hole. We'll just figure it out. All right, put the styrofoam under that hoop part to lift this up above the table. And I can tell by where it's latching over there that this is gonna correspond here. Dude, these instructions are terrible. Like the evolution saw terrible. If you guys watch me a lot, that was a beer drinking video. Not the cutting part, obviously. The assembly part, for sure. So in the end, I was right, but geez, what a confusing mess. And I hope I have this installed right. The part with the wheels, the hole in this little bend here, goes through right there. This thing is kind of pinned in there. We'll see if that's on right. All right, so I'm done with the instructions because the instructions have failed me, in my opinion. The only piece left that isn't attached is this with the bar, and there's 2 holes. There and there. So you got to lift the whole thing up enough to get a bolt through those. I'm gonna need a snack after this one. It's too much screwing around. Oh, look at that. Locks in. Good. This isn't super hard. You got to understand, this is like, I don't know, how many of these things have I put together in the past 2 years? This is like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8. So I'm pretty used to doing this stuff, but I could see if this is the first one you've ever put together that those instructions would suck. And I can see why people have made videos on just the assembly for this. So we will leave the assembly in this video. I was hoping, because it's a budget saw, I was hoping to just really breeze over that, but you probably just watched the full assembly because this thing's stupid. Let's get it off here and see if it sucks. All right, let's walk around this thing like we always do and see what we got going on here. Very basic on-off switch, ABS plastic, no lock on this one. There is no way to lock this down. So if you're gonna put this in a school or you have an orange cat at home, there is no way to lock this down. You got your blade height control here. You got blade up and blade down. Bevel lock is on this side. Down to unlock. Bevel scale is very easy to read. There is no extra markings for 46, 47 degrees or in the negatives. But the pointer is nice and big and red and easy to see. It is adjustable with the screw. You got stops for 0 and 45. You can just barely see it in there. Got an Allen screw and a little cam behind there that this will bump up against, which I can't show you. Knob for your rack and pinion fence system. Works just fine. Is plastic, and they gave it these little bumps here, so it feels a little bit sharp in the hand. So not the best feeling for cheap plastic, but hey, it works. Back behind your blade adjustment, you have your little placard with information. Over 25 kilograms, whatever that means. Model number TS10601, 15 amps, made in China. Mine was made about 10 months ago. So lastly here, we got our push stick. About as basic a push stick as you could possibly get. Clearly ABS plastic, but I think that's the theme here. Hey, if it works, it works. Fits nicely in the front of the saw. Little clips or bumps on it, so it sticks in there pretty good. It doesn't stick out past any of the other stuff, so actually not too bad. It's about an inch past this and not even close to being as far out as this bad boy. Here on the right side of your saw, you have absolutely nothing going on except for the lever that locks down your fence. Up is locked, locks up nice and secure, nice and tight. Down is unlocked. We're able to move our fence. This is pretty big. It is also cheap plastic, but it's big, it locks up nice. It seems to work good. Handles here, so you can pick up your saw while you're standing in front of it. There's one on the other side too. On the back side here, we continue our theme of basic. You got your very nice metal rack and pinion gear. Not bad. It's got this little plastic guard on it for some reason. 2.5-inch dust port on this one. Nice and metal. Gives you plenty of space to clamp to. Metal housing. Not bad. Plastic on the sides, and nothing designed into this to allow you to retrieve something that's dropped down in the blade housing here. So you're going to need a magnet from the top or fishing out the back if you drop your arbor nut down in here. Same story on this side. Plastic. The metal housing extends up here. Obviously that's what your motor is mounted to. Plastic motor housing. You got your brushes right there. Brushes and one on the other side, obviously. Then you got your miter gauge mounted right in here. There's a little spot for it. Miter gauge is the plastic goofy variety. Ultra cheap, mounted on aluminum. At least it's screwed to it. It is what it is. It's exactly the miter gauge I expected. Here on the left side, we got a few things to actually talk about. You got your cord keeper, plastic screwed to the side of the table, which is kind of a cheesy design, but cheesiness aside, it keeps your cord captive. Get about 6 feet of cord, and we got our accessories. Wrenches are just press fit in there. You get 2, obviously. Got your blade guard. Standard blade guard. It's got detents to hold it up, which is nice. Operates on just this lever. Lever seems to work nice, and it's very easy to lock and unlock. Kickback pawl, standard stuff. Plunger pin on a spring. Not bad. Here's what everything mounts to. Piece of sheet metal here. And this plastic tray, which, man, does this feel cheap. The wrenches just press fit in here. Take you one tiny little jostle to get those to fall out of there and get lost if you're moving this thing around somewhere that is not your house. This is actually one of the nicer designs for locking down a blade guard. It's very simple. It just kind of locks itself. Obviously cheap, but this is metal and it's welded to the tube. This isn't bad, you know, they came so close. If this was just a piece of sheet metal, we would have called it a pretty good design. Tabletop on this one is 25 inches by just about 22 inches. Tabletop working height on this one is about 35 inches. Got your standard 3-position fence mount. You got this one for the left side of your blade. This one here will get your fence all the way to your blade to 0. And then this spot here is 8 inches from this one. So you get an extra 8 inches if you're mounted out here for a total rip of 32.5, which is a pretty big span for a budget table saw. The rail system for this is metal on metal, which I'm not gonna say is a bad thing. Usually there is some kind of plastic that this rides on, but in this case, got your old extruded aluminum right on this metal rail right here. Metal rail screws down, quite a bit of play in it. However, once you lock it down, that play goes away and it gets pretty tight, so not too bad. Fence mounting point reminds me of DeWalt in that it hooks up underneath and then sits on the rail itself. Lever releases it and it pitches up, attaches like so. Not a terrible design at all. Backside of your fence mount, this is the other side of the lever. All the lever does is make this little Allen screw pull in and out. That's it. Got metal mounting bracket for where the fence attaches to the rail. That little Allen bolt just jumps into this groove in the rail. That's what locks your fence down. You have your secondary fence or your support, which has become a pretty standard design now. Flips around. You got support for when your fence is stretched way out for material. So you have a little auxiliary fence if you're going to use your push stick and need the space, or you're ripping something real thin, you have a secondary fence. Locks down very secure. Ain't going nowhere. Brings us to our throat plate. You got a latch, unlock, which is nice, pulls out, metal throat plate, which is at the price point, a little bit of a luxury, but I think Skill has re-released theirs and no more plastic from what I'm told, although I haven't seen one. The machining on it is a little rough, but if it works, it works. It sits flat. Now, Lowe's wants $50 for the dado plate for this saw. 50 bucks. And while I'm inclined to tell you Lowe's is absolutely insane, because they are, this one here is not for this saw. It is for, oh, the Master Force. I had the Master Force sitting behind me, waiting for its review, and I started to notice some similarities between these two saws, and I wondered if this would fit, and lo and behold. Locks down. It has to be pressed down. It has about 0.8 of a millimeter sticking up, but only in this corner. It sits flush everywhere else. So I'm gonna have to relieve a little material from this corner here. This was $14.99, 15 bucks, which for its rough machining and I'm not gonna say lack of quality, but let's call it slightly unfinished. For that, 15 bucks seems like a reasonable price. I mean, what does Bosch get for theirs? 15, 20 bucks. Sits flush here, not so much in that corner. By about here, flush again. Riving knife locks down with the lever. 3-position riving knife. Locks down tight. My riving knife is pretty straight. It's off just a hair at the top. However, I don't see any adjustment for this. I read the book, no adjustment. Makes it a little bit worse, but it's close enough to where I'm not worried about it. 2-wrench design to get your blade out. There's your arbor nut. Washer, and there's our blade. TCT saw blade, 10 inches, 5/8 arbor, of course. 40 tooth, a lot of oil on this one. This saw is covered in oil, but that's okay. I'd rather have oil than rust. Not too shabby looking in here, actually. Here is your inner arbor washer with the flat spots for the wrench. Wrenches are a little loose, but it is what it is. Mostly metal in here. Good threads on your arbor on this one. Nice and smooth. I showed you the dado plate and it doesn't fit perfect. This one, it fits. But you gotta push it down. I don't know, man. It's not, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a little high on this one too. We'll see if we can adjust that out of there. Full up blade height on this is 3.5 inches. At 45 degrees, 2.5 inches. All right, is the blade parallel to the miter slot? I was actually able to get the master plate, calibration plate installed horizontally this time, which is real nice. We don't usually get to do that with job site saws, but this one, I put an extra washer behind it and we have enough room. However, we have trouble, already trouble. Right here in this table, there's a machining error in this miter slot. So I have it set for 0, right on the money. When I push it over, watch when I pass about right here. We're 10 thou off. Oop, back to 0. It goes 0 to about -1 or 2, and then hits 8 thou, and creeps back up to 10 thou off by the time we get up to here. Actually, it's 9. If it wasn't for the miter slot, this would be freaking spot on. Close to it for a cheap table saw. What a freaking shame. So here's our same messed up miter slot. That anomaly is right in here. And we'll check our fence, but we're not really going to be able to verify this because the miter slot's messed up. So set to 0, pretty close, but as you see in a second, it isn't going to matter. So we're 10 thou off by there. That jump is right here, and you can see it jump, but it's less dramatic facing this direction. So I wonder if there isn't something also with this. I can feel it when we hit it. See how that's not flat anymore? Move it here, flat. By the time we get over here, we're about 23 thou off. So you got 4mm Allen on these. Just loosen that up. One side's free. Usually I just use touch on this to line the fence up, and I usually get it within 5 thou, but yeah, there's within 5 thou. So we'll tighten this up. It ain't pretty. I mean, it jumps all over the place. There you go. About 4 thou off. I can feel it. It like goes along and then pitches down, and when it hits right here. Not good, man. Not freaking good. I didn't really want to highlight this because, just like the Wen, man, a little bit of finishing issues with things saves money. And you know what? If they still work fine, then I don't really have a problem with this sort of thing. But look at the gap in the front of the throat plate. It just doesn't fit right. There's a pronounced gap. I don't know if you have the right angle to see it, but it looks pretty shoddy. It comes out real rough probably in the casting, and they just take a grinder to it, and whatever tolerances they end up with is what they end up with. So despite the sweet machining error on the table here, let's check our stops just for fun, and we'll see how flat the table is, and then we'll move on. 0.4 off on the 90 side, and we'll just be lazy and bevel to 45. Almost. Not bad. Well, we've hit a new low. It's like 10 thou everywhere. Off by 10 thou pretty much everywhere. I'm not even sure what's holding this up. We got 20. You'll notice the 20 looks brand new because I don't think we've ever used it on the channel before. It's kind of hard to see because I have it on wide angle lens, but there's scratches everywhere. And the scratches are me just taking the material right off of this thing by using this. 20 thou all over the place, front of the blade, all the way across. 20 thou off next to the blade. Yeah, it's a little bit there. That has never happened before where the finish is just coming off. I wasn't doing it on purpose, I promise you, not on purpose. It's just doing that. And we're just scratching the hell out of this thing. I expect these job site saws to be 10 thou off, 8 thou. That's normal. I mean, it's a job site saw. Here's the 10, scratched to death. You can barely read it because we use it a lot with these saws. But 20? 20 is a new low. Microphone, 30 inches from the saw as usual. And here we go. First turn on. All right, so we got our dust collector, 4-inch, neck down to 2.5, attached to our saw. We got our outfeed table. Let's cut some stuff. Typical selection, 3/4 plywood, 1/2-inch plywood. We got a 1x red oak, 1x pine, 2x pine. We got a stair tread. I think we got a good variety as usual. Let's kick this off with 32 3/4 full rip on a 1/2-inch piece of plywood, and we'll just work our way up from there. So it's dado stack time, but we got a little bit of stuff. I think what we're gonna do is just take the grinder to it and call it a day, because yeah, I'm not in the mood to get in the car, and that's already here. That's better. Look at that. Perfect. Now, do I recommend you modify things on your table saw? I do not. Officially, I do not. Do not modify your table saw. Now, would I modify my table saw to avoid giving Lowe's $35? I would, 100%. So there we are. Took a lot of grinding, actually. I adjusted it properly, and it locks down without pushing down this corner now, so it's even better than it was. All right, naturally, we have a problem here already. So the first problem is I dropped the freaking washer down in there, which happens in pretty much every video. The other problem, when I put this washer on here, this is 3/4 dado, as we usually do. It is 2 outer blades, 3 chippers, and 3 spacers, but no shims. And we have no space to put our nut on the end of this. So my choices could be to not use the washer, which I really hate to do. I mean, if you need the washer for 1 blade, you should probably have the washer for 5. So I think what we're gonna do here is reduce the size of our every freaking time is reduce the size of our dado, just for my own safety's sake, because, you know, I like being alive, and my kid probably wants a father. I mean, not all the time, but, you know, in general, having a dad's nice. All right, so here's where we ended up. We got 2 outers, 3 chippers, no spacers, no shims. For 5/8, full 5/8 dado, we're gonna go 1.5 inches tall. The arbor comes right to the end of the nut. So I feel like I have all the threads on that nut on the arbor. The inner washer is part of the arbor that you put the wrench on back here. So there is no way to lose the back washer, which is a method that some of these companies use. Let's run this thing, see what happens. 30 inches of green treated 4x4, as usual. That's what we always do. There was nothing in the manual discussing how to set up the dado. Could it be in the actual dado insert that comes with this saw? It's possible. You guys let me know if you have this saw and you drop the 50 on it. Some people say it doesn't even come with the little grub screws for the adjusting. So I don't know. You tell me. How's the old dust collection? Arguably, I would say slightly better than the Bosch. So how do we end up with this one? You guys tell me. What do you think? Do you guys have one of these at home that is absolutely perfect? Let us know. Keep in mind, I'm one guy with one saw, and I can only show you what we got going on right here. So could this be the worst individual saw Kobalt's ever made? It could, but I doubt it. The finish on the table is garbage. It's all scratched up just from this little bit of testing. We have a miter slot that's incorrectly machined. We have these inserts that our fit is a little suspect. They want 50 bucks for a dado insert, and I'm really curious if it's exactly the same as this one. I'm assuming it is, but this one I had to take the grinder to get it to fit. What else we got going on here? We got cheap parts. That's expected. Some ABS plastic knobs, switch, no lockout. Okay, fine, I can live with that. But hey, it did the dado. It had the power to do the dado, even though it was 5/8. I don't know where they get 13/16 from. You guys tell me, but I'm not a huge fan of leaving the washer off. So I've done it. I'm not a fan of it. I'd prefer to have the washer on there if I could. Best part of this is the stand. The stand's very nice. It's got thick tubing and it's fine. Folds nice, rolls nice. Plastic tray for the accessory storage is super cheap. It pains me more when these budget tools are bad. I'm sure you've heard me say this before, but I root for the tool every time. For one, it takes me longer to do the video when the tool's bad because I have to second guess myself. I have to go back, I have to check, I have to make sure that I'm not being overly critical. And what I'm showing you and saying is the same thing. And I believe it is in this one, especially the miter slot. For me, that's death. You mismachine a miter slot, yeah, this thing's out of here. This is gonna get returned, I'm sure. It's gonna go back in the box, which I love doing when the stand has to be put together. But what if you wanted to put a little sled on this? Can't do it. It's garbage. It sucks. Now, it pisses me off more when the budget tools are bad. This is the kind of tool I would have bought 15 years ago when my wife and I bought our first house because we had not $8 to our name. We bought that house and everything we did was as budget could be. And I get it, man. When you're young, when you're starting out, when you're older and you don't have the budget but the house needs to be fixed, this is the kind of thing you have to rely on. And ABS parts is fine. Hey man, they gotta save money somewhere, but unacceptable. That's safety. That's bad news. So yeah, not impressed. You guys tell me what you think. I wish it was different. Trust me, we got the Master Force, which has the same dado plate and some similar parts, and I'm really curious to find out if it's the same damn saw that's sitting behind you and we're gonna do again. We'll find out. I hope good things for that one. You guys want to see that one? Check out the video for that. It's coming up real soon. So thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll see you in the next one.